peculiar lines in the Peruvian desert depict birds and flowers in complex geometric shapes, others just running in all directions, dating back about 2,000 years. Now, what is the controversy between the mainstream scientific community and the ancient alien theorists about? Coming up in a moment. How many archaeologists does it take to change a light bulb? 3. 2 to start a dispute on how old is the old light bulb, and 1 to change it. Then, how many ancient alien theorists does it take to change a light bulb? Also 3. 1 checks old manuscripts about light bulbs. Another marks the ground for alien landing. And the third one observes the sky for any incoming interstellar aircraft. Because you see, the light bulb is an ancient alien technology, and therefore only aliens can change it. For centuries, over centuries, the lines in the Nazca Desert lay hidden in plain sight. You could just walk over and stare at them and never know you saw anything. People had not the slightest idea what a fascinating creation was just under their very noses. Only when airplanes began flying over the area in the 1920s, now 100 years ago, military pilots started to notice bizarre markings on the ground. They reported the findings to their superiors, of course, but the army didn't think much of it. But a decade later, passengers on those early commercial flights, sitting in their comfy seats and looking out of the windows at the dull desert scenery below, noticed too that the landscape in that particular spot wasn't so dull after all. When seen from above, it was suddenly filled with incredible artificial creation. There it was, on the desert plateau between the Andes mountain range and the Pacific Ocean, about a 4-hour drive southeast from the Peruvian capital Lima, one of the most distinguished landmarks in Peru, the Nazca Lines. The National Geographic magazine, calling it one of Peru's greatest mysteries, is no exaggeration. So if you ever plan to visit the country, besides maybe seeing Machu Picchu and Lake Titicaca, you should go there as well. Maybe even hire a small plane for an hour or two to fly over the lines, as this is the only way to appreciate the otherwise concealed treasure. The lines are thought to have been built sometime between 500 BC and 500 AD, but no one really knows since no written records document it. They could, as some alien astronaut theorists do suggest, be much, much older. The individual figurative geoglyph designs measure anywhere from 400 meters to up to 1100 meters across. The total length of all the lines is an astonishing 1300 kilometers, being more than the distance between, let's say, New York and Atlanta, Georgia, or in Europe the distance between London and Madrid. While most Nazca lines are faultlessly straight, as if drawn with a giant ruler, other sections of the artwork depict natural objects like plants and animals, even a man standing in a spacesuit. Could the image represent an ancient alien? Or did the creators of the lines possess some powers of clairvoyance and prophetic foresight of an astronaut in the 20th century? Most of the lines are 10 to 15 centimeters, that is 4 to 6 inches deep. They were made by removing the top layer of reddish-brown iron oxide-coated pebbles to reveal a yellow-grey subsoil. The width of the lines varies very much, but more than half are slightly over 33 centimeters wide. In some places they may be only 30 centimeters or 12 inches wide, and in others reach 1.8 meters or 6 feet. Now back to the discovery. After the rumors of the strange lines in the Peruvian desert spread and finally reached American historian and explorer Paul Kosok in 1939, he got excited and came to research them. In the following year, archaeologist Maria Reiche, who was teaching in Lima at the time, also heard about the sensational findings and joined Kosok as his assistant. Together they were going to research the terrain as thoroughly as they possibly could for many years to come. Kosok's initial thought was that the lines could be an ancient irrigation system. Then he realized the furrows were too shallow. Luckily, he and Reiche were working on the site on the day of the winter solstice. They saw the sunset on that day hit precisely the end of one of those long lines. This was the moment when Kosok understood that the place was much more mysterious than anyone had previously thought. Kosok and Reiche witnessed another alignment with the summer solstice. They proposed then that the pictograms could correspond to various constellations, a total of 70 different birds and animals, plus geometric shapes and 800 straight lines forms some kind of celestial calendar. They even called the site the largest astronomy book in the world. This definitely made so much more sense than some archaeologists claiming that the lines were ancient roads. Then came the groundbreaking year 1968, when Erich von Däniken's book Chariots of the Gods was published. At first in German, but translations into dozens and dozens of languages, including English, followed shortly. The book was an instant success, breaking into all bestseller lists around the world. In this book, the author was the first to propose the idea that many ancient structures were in fact somehow connected to interstellar visitors, either built by aliens or by humans who got the ideas or even blueprints from them. The scientific community was obviously not prepared to take this big step forward and was utterly outraged. In the book, among many other sites, the Nazca Lines were mentioned too. Däniken writes about the Nazca Lines. According to my way of thinking, they could have been laid out on their gigantic scale by working from a model and using a system of coordinates, or they could have also been built according to instructions from an aircraft. It is not yet possible to say with certainty whether the plain of Nazca was ever an airfield. If iron was used, it will certainly not be found because there is no prehistoric iron. Metals corrode in a few years. Stone never corrodes. What is wrong with the idea that the lines were laid out to say to the gods, "Land here, everything has been prepared as you ordered"? The builders of the geometrical figures may have had no idea what they were doing, but perhaps they knew perfectly well what the gods needed in order to land. Now, up until then, the scientific community had widely accepted Kosok's and Reiche's explanations about the purpose of the Nazca Lines. But after Däniken's book, the idea of an astronomical calendar suddenly became unbearable, uncomfortable. A nation that, according to historians, even didn't possess writing, suddenly created an astronomical calendar. Not likely. I can well imagine conversations inside the archaeological community realizing how their own position on the Nazca Lines helped Däniken to support his theories. Making a connection to aliens seemed too logical. Something needed to be done. And of course, changing the theory while sitting in the office thousands and thousands of miles away would have surely seemed simply too ridiculous. So new expeditions to Peru were organized. As an outcome of this work, the new official doctrine was developed that stated that instead of being something as serious and scientific as a celestial calendar, the lines were merely a silly magical means to bring more precipitation into the area. Magic was something that all ancient peoples were engaged in without needing any alien help, so no questions there. It dramatically diminished the significance of the work. All of a sudden, it was just another pointless aspiration of a primitive tribe to a better life that didn't need any fancy explanation. Besides, this magic didn't bear any fruit. The area of Nazca receives just 20 minutes of rain per year. We have, of course, no way of knowing who is right. Maybe everyone is wrong. The actual truth might be weirder than we could possibly imagine, but still, the reasons why scientists change their mind is far from being honest or scientific. Since then, other researchers have continued to work on the site. Among their observations, there have been conducted geophysical and geological surveys, which have given some interesting results. Scientists from Dresden University, for example, measured the magnetic field of the lines. They found that 8 feet below the ground, the magnetic field changes. Now, could this be a byproduct of ancient magic? What do you think? Write in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.